Thanks very much for downloading this episode of Folk on Foot. Before it starts, I just wanted to share a message with you because we rely entirely on our listeners to keep this show on the road. We don't take any advertising, we don't take any sponsorship. We have a generous bunch of people who give us some money every month to make sure that Folk on Foot can continue. And if you'd like to join them, you can do that at folkonfoot.com/support us. You can become a patron and make a regular contribution, or if you don't want to do that, you can just buy us a coffee. It's as simple as that. And you can do it at folkonfoot.com/support us. Every donation, no matter how small, makes a big difference to us. So thank you, and enjoy the walk. Last year I heard one of the most significant and important albums I've heard for a long time. The Sorrow Songs by Angeline Morrison. Songs based on black British experience dating back through history. And it had a profound impact on me. And as soon as I heard it, I wanted to meet her and to talk more to her about her inspiration. So I've come to North Cornwall now, to the area where she lives. And we're going to find out more about Angeline Morrison, her music, and this extraordinary album. Angeline, good morning. It's lovely to see you.
Good morning. It's lovely to see you too. Welcome to Cornwall.
Where have you brought us to? Where are we?
Okay, we're in Park Shady. That's Park with a C, which is the Cornish spelling. And we are not far from Porthtowan Beach, which is where we're heading towards.
Wonderful. And there's a lot of wild garlic here, isn't there?
Yeah, there's loads. Wild garlic and bluebells in the hedgerows. It's a real bounty.
And have you lived in Cornwall for a long time?
Yeah, a pretty long time. I really love it here. Well, I'm from Birmingham originally, but this feels like it feels like I've got two homes. I don't want to say second home because there's negative connotations to that, isn't there? Especially when you live in a coastal community. But I do feel like I've got two homes, and Cornwall is one of them for me. It feeds my soul.
What brought you here in the first place?
I fell in love with the obios.
What's the obios? You've got to tell. I know the
you must
obios
know
is
what
a traditional
the obios
thing.
is.
I do know, but you just explain it for those who don't know.
Well, it's a very, very ancient tradition of Padstow in Cornwall, and it is so very ancient that nobody is really sure where it began, but it involves. It used to be just one obios or hobby horse. Obios is the Cornish way of saying hobby horse. And the os goes through the village to a particular song and tune that is unique to this Padstonian tradition. And there are drums and accordions, and anyone from Padstow who follows the procession wears white and either a red neckerchief if they're following the original obios, or a blue neckerchief if they're following the peace os, which is the second os, which was brought in 1918 to mark the end of the First World War.
Right.
So there's two obioses, and so the obios has a really particular looking face. So the dancer inside it wears a mask. The dance is extraordinary. It's like nothing you will have ever seen in Britain. It's an incredible dance. There's a film made by Peter Kennedy in the 1950s called Os Os We Os. If you haven't seen that, I really recommend it. It's on YouTube. And in that there's footage from the 50s of the dancers practising in a local pub. So they're practising out of costume, and you can really see the way their bodies move. It's extraordinary. It's so compelling. And when you actually get there to the event, you really feel like you're part of something very powerful and very ancient. It's got the most incredible atmosphere, and it just pulls you in, and the drum beats feel like a multitude of beating hearts almost, and you just feel so incredibly pulled in.
And how did you first come across it?
Well, I got into folk traditions probably as a teenager. I began researching as much as I could possibly find out about. It started with folk song really, and then folk dance and music and traditional customs. And when I found out that there were places in the UK where these very ancient traditional customs continue to be practiced, that absolutely blew my mind. And what I loved about it was what I think a lot of people at the moment are loving about it, which is that sense of connectivity and a sense of being part of something bigger, being a part of something natural, being part of sort of the bigger picture of nature, that we're not separate from it or from each other as humans, part of the land and part of nature. And
that spoke to you?
Very, very deeply. On a really deep level, that spoke to me. I did a lot of research at Birmingham Central Library and found out about all these traditions, and the Padstow Obios was one of them. I thought, I absolutely have to go there. So I just went down by myself. I think I was 17, and I got a coach down, and I put myself into a B&B, and that was it.
And then you fell in love with it.
That's absolutely right, yes.
And from that came your love of Cornwall, presumably. I mean, that's why you moved here.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, it all seemed to fit together. I feel very at peace, uncomfortable when I'm near water, particularly near the sea, and that helps me with my composition too. And I'll tell you a bit more about that when we get down to Porthtowan, because that's where I wrote Unknown African Boy.
Yeah.
But if I'm ever needing inspiration or ideas to come, I've got to get out somewhere like this. So there's all this big sky, and it isn't always a beautiful blue like it is today. It's often grey, but that doesn't matter to me. There's lots of sky that I can see, and you can hear the birds, and the hedgerows are absolutely abundant and bursting with life at the moment. And yeah, it just, some sort of magic happens. I'm not quite sure what it is that's going on, but I instantly feel at peace, and there's a sort of a space inside me, and ideas can come.
I must say I empathise with that, because it is obviously this podcast is all about walking, and it's often about walking in rather beautiful places and in nature, and there is something calming and inspiring about connecting back with nature when you've been in a big city or when you've been in a very hectic time. There's something that shifts your perspective. So I'm not long from London here today, but my mind has been opened, and I feel my soul expanding as I come back to the countryside.
That's beautiful. That's really beautiful. Yeah, I think it is a thing that many people can connect with.
Now, Angeline, I wonder if you'd sing a song for us.
I'd be happy to.
Have you got one in mind?
No, let's think. How about Bushes and Briars?
Why have you chosen that one?
Well, I wanted to sing something traditional to start with, and it was a bit literal, but we are surrounded by bushes and briars at the moment, aren't we?
Yeah.
So that helped me. That's helped me to make the decision. But also, what I really particularly love about this song is the fact that it goes from those gorgeous descriptions of the natural world and of sort of what we imagine to be a rural life, and it goes straight from there to the interiority of the singer, and we are connected with their emotional landscape, and that feeling of, when you're just crazed with love and desire for somebody, and you don't know if they feel the same way about you. You've got no way of possibly finding out, and that sense of kind of instability that you feel at those sorts of moments, it's horrible, and this traditional song really goes to those deep emotional places and describes those feelings beautifully. Sometimes I am uneasy and troubled in my mind, so yeah, there's so much that you can get from traditional song, isn't there? Through bushes and through briars I lately took my way, all for to hear the small birds a sing, and the lambs to skip and play. I overheard my true love, his voice it rang so clear. How long have I been waiting for the coming of my dear? How long have I been waiting for the coming of my dear. Sometimes I am uneasy and troubled in my mind. Sometimes I think I'll go to my love and tell to him my mind. But if I should go to my love he would say nay. If I show to him my boldness, he will never love me again. If I show to him my boldness, he will never love me again. Through bushes and through briars I lately took my way, all for to hear the small birds a sing, and the lambs to skip and to play.
That was gorgeous, and it seems incredibly appropriate. You know, the lambs are probably skipping and playing somewhere near here, aren't they?
Thank you. Yes, we'll see some, probably.
Thank you for that. So there you are in Birmingham, and you're getting interested in folk music. I'm just interested in your family. Tell me, was it a musical family? Did they introduce you to folk music?
They didn't introduce me to folk music, but lots and lots of music of all different genres and kinds was always being played. So I come from a family of people who really love music, so I'm very lucky. I had a really good sort of musical education.
So what sort of things?
And my mum really loved soul music, for example, and my dad really loved all kinds of Jamaican music.
So your mum was from Jamaica and your dad was from the Outer Hebrides, I believe?
Yes, yeah, that's right. He went out to Jamaica to work, and that's where he met my mum. But so he'd never heard Jamaican music before, and he was really moved by it. He was really moved by the skian, the reggae, and all of the sounds that he heard out there, and all the Jamaican music that was influenced by American soul. Like, it was completely new to him, so he really absorbed that and loved it. So lots of listening to music and lots of singing. So my family are all very enthusiastic singers. So for me, singing is as natural as breathing. And a lot of people, like I run choirs and singing workshops a lot, and I never allow people to say I can't sing, because lots of people say that, don't they?
But lots of people are told that at an early age when they could. But the confidence is taken from them, isn't it?
That's right. It upsets me so much. There are a huge amount of people who have been damaged by, teachers or people saying, oh, you can't sing, just mouth the words at the back, or, really unkind stuff. And so my philosophy is that singing is your superpower, and that's for everybody. You don't have to perform the singing. You don't have to be a sort of technically proficient. But the actual act of singing, of using the breath to make sound and make notes and make songs, that's something that everybody can do. And it's so good for the body and for the emotions and for the soul. It uses the breath, it grounds you in the body. And I was reading Mariah Carey's autobiography.
Oh yeah.
The meaning of Mariah Carey. I love her. She's wonderful. A true diva in the true sense of the word.
Yeah.
As in a singer of great distinction. And a goddess. But Mariah says when she was little, she used to sing to herself. She had a very traumatic childhood. She would sing to herself under her breath, and it calmed her down. And I used to do the same thing when I was little. I would just sing to myself under my breath, and it would calm me down. And so I think, as an adult doing some research about this, it seems that there's scientific research that backs this up. It actually, singing does work with the breath and the parasympathetic nervous system, and it calms the whole body and helps to reset you if you've been upset by something. It's a wonderful thing.
And it was part of your life right from the start, presumably.
Right from the start, yes. Sorry, I've rambled on a bit.
No, that's right.
I was just explaining that my family were all... Everybody would sing just walking around doing stuff.
Right.
It was never a big deal. It was just something that happened very naturally. And, friends would come to my house and say stuff like, there's 4 different people singing 4 different songs in 4 different rooms. I've never heard anything like this before. I'd be like, yeah, that's just normal for us. So for me to start going to folk clubs and everybody just bursts into song and finds their own harmonies, that just felt like home. It was lovely. I was.
What happened? Where was the first folk club you went to?
I can't even remember. Sorry.
Were you a teenager when you went to a folk club?
Yeah, I was a teenager, and my dad, bless him, accompanied me.
Right. Was he keen to hear folk music, or did he just come to look after you?
He just came to as a sort of to take care of me, really.
But you felt instantly at home in the club.
Well, there's a very friendly vibe with most folk clubs, isn't there? And that's something that a lot of people find really welcoming about the world of folk and kind of the scene. There's a friendliness there. For me to go into any environment where people are just singing out like that is like bliss. I'm the person that walks around the supermarket singing and genuinely not realising what I'm doing, and people will come up to me and go, "Oh, someone's happy today." I'll be like, "Oh, sorry."
And were you writing songs as well in your mind from an early age? Very
much so, yeah. I remember turning up to school age like 5 or whatever and being really surprised that other children didn't compose songs the way. I was really shocked by that. I thought everybody did it. And also I was my feelings were very hurt when I would sing something that I'd composed and nobody knew it.
Were you expecting them to join in immediately?
I honestly was, yeah. I thought by some kind of sympathetic magic everybody would know these songs I'd been writing at home. But yeah, I had a lot of learning to do.
So you were exposed to all these different kinds of music, and obviously you still listen to all different kinds of music.
Yeah, I do.
But what was it about folk music that particularly drew you?
It's difficult to pin it down to one thing. There are many things. So when I first heard traditional song, I later found out that it was Shirley Collins singing Our Captain Cried. So what I heard as a small child playing, coming out of the radio, was an unaccompanied female human voice of incredible purity and beauty. I'd never heard an unaccompanied voice like that, and I'd also never heard before the kinds of cadences of melody which characterise a lot of traditional songs, sort of melodies that are uncommon when you've been listening to a lot of pop music. They're kind of more hymnal in a way, and also archaic language and interesting pronunciation of words. It was all so exotic to me. And then that connection with something ancient that you can't define and you don't know. So there's a mystery, isn't there? If a song is so old that nobody can remember who wrote it, whether that's one person or many people, then there's a mystery there, and I'm very attracted to anything mysterious that we can't necessarily pinpoint, because I think it just allows your imagination free rein, and that's really exciting for me. And yeah, it's for me, it's that connection with something ancient feels very meaningful.
Now we've come down here to a rather beautiful stream. The blossom is out on the bush here, and I wonder if this might be a spot for you to sing as a Cornish song.
I'd be happy to, yeah. I'm going to sing De Sulvitin, which in the Cornish language, Carnoic, means Sunday morning. It's a very beautiful song written by Richard Gandel, who writes some incredible folk songs in the Cornish language, really beautiful songs. And I heard this version by Brenda Wootton, who I'm sure you know of, a phenomenal, incredible Cornish folk singer, an amazing woman. She ran her own folk club, she was a ceramicist, and she was a real champion of the Cornish language songs and culture. And this song is very sweet and it's very beautiful, and it's about a moment. It's about a moment in time where you wake up on a Sunday morning and everything's quiet, and you're in bed with your beloved, and your beloved is still asleep. And the whole 3 verses of the song are about just the incredible sweetness of this moment, because you know it's fleeting. At some point they're going to wake up, and that's a double-edged sword, because when they wake up they can share the moment with you. But actually there's something really beautiful about the fact that they're in their own lovely dream world, having wonderful dreams, and that really stayed with me, the beauty of writing a song about a moment like that.
And do you find the Cornish language easy or difficult?
Well, you'll have to ask me in about a year, because I'm at the very, very, very beginning stages at the moment. I find it a very beautiful language. It's difficult for me because I'm completely new to it, but I think hopefully that will change when I have more time studying.
Well, we'd love to hear you sing it now, alongside this lovely stream and with the blossom and the birds singing.
De sulveten tiam gweli golo de thunam nigen whether there's a star hina Tom ha close ribor the new and Kelly's in him Isabel Peldres gueles a divin Tia garaf Tian gwithia solo biu An groglen o you getis New glawar an quareliain Besias north an etlendana Iso gravas los an ibren Dries am tu an gwins adon Hingan gwef them keith colon Tia garaf Tian gwithia solo biu Mia vir wareo iurior Eður pasia sola breeze At the define of guns or hisen Ti mai trillif treim bunans At the define of ach ne An pos gwyn vis mani dir Tia garaf Tian gwyddias holo biu
Well, Angeline, we've had some beautiful moments on this podcast, and that was certainly up there with the best of them. It was just absolutely gorgeous to hear you sing that song in the sunshine here by the stream. Thank you so much.
Wow, thank you.
No, it's beautiful. And I wonder if the language has any commonality with Welsh, because there's a sort of musicality about the language which feels as though it might be related in some way.
I believe it does. I believe linguistic scholars say that there is some commonality with Welsh, yes, and other Celtic languages.
Yeah. So listen, shall we move on? Are we going to walk to the beach?
Yes, we are. We're going to walk down to Porthtown Beach, which is where I wrote Unknown African Boy, so I wanted to take you there and show you the beach. It's my favourite beach, actually.
Let's go.
Let's go, yeah.
We're actually going to ford the stream now, aren't we?
We cannot avoid getting wet.
No, exactly. Our feet are going to get a bit damp. There are some stones.
We can avoid the mud, though. Should we go around the side?
Yeah, let's go around the side of this patch of mud. But the stream is remarkably clear and fast-flowing, isn't it, here?
This is a beautiful stream. It's always clear. And sometimes, in summer, you can, move a big rock and place the rock in the middle and sit on it with your feet in the water.
Oh, yes.
It's lovely. It's very meditative. I love to listen to the different sounds. There's like an orchestra of sound in this stream, and I love to just listen to it.
And we just come a little bit further along it, and it sounds different from the way it did back there, about 100 yards away, doesn't it? Because you can hear it going down a slight incline over to our left there, over some rocks. So you can hear the water frothing here in a way that it wasn't doing when it was running just smoothly further upstream. But I'm going to go first. Shall I get in there?
Do you want to go first?
Yeah, I'm going to go first and see.
There are some sort of stepping stones, but
there may be some splashing.
I don't know how good they are.
Yeah, it's definitely just up to the top of my shoes. Unfortunately, they're waterproof shoes.
I'm just going to splash through. It's easier.
I should put my wellies on now.
Well done.
So I'd love to hear more about the Sorrow Songs project, because that album has made such an impact, and I'm just interested to know how it began, how it started in your mind.
Yeah, well, I had the idea in quite nebulous forms, and I say forms because there were many sort of forms that this idea took, but it's been rolling around in my mind for some years. And what I noticed was that there didn't seem to be any songs that I'd heard in the repertoire of traditional songs of Britain that seemed to represent or speak from any kind of experience of blackness. And I had always been taught, as many people are still taught to this day, that there quote-unquote weren't any black people in Britain until 1948 with Empire Windrush, and this is a misconception. I believe this misconception because it's it's what we were taught in school. And then I gradually began to find out more and more about the UK's historic black presence. This is documented. There is evidence. The UK's historic black presence goes back at least 2,000 years. So
to Roman times?
Yes, at least, and that's just as far back as we have evidence for. So who knows about, times before that. So this changed everything for me, and I thought, well, what this actually means is that we belong here. Whatever some people might say, we actually do belong here. We have black ancestors that belong in these islands and that belong with this land and are deeply connected to this land. They will have had a song tradition and will have also sung the songs that were popular anyway in these islands. Everywhere people go in the world, they bring music, they exchange music, they compose music, they create songs. It's a thing that's common, I think, to all humans. That's what we're song-making creatures, aren't we, as humans?
So did you set out on a journey to try to find the black songs?
Well, I did. I found there are lots of songs where black characters are mentioned, quite a lot of songs, and I think this in itself points to awareness of black people and also to historic black presence. But the problem with the majority of those songs that I found is that the black people were represented in ways that I certainly wouldn't want to sing, and also it seemed clear that the songs were not written from the perspective of the black people. They were written about black people. And at the time of George Floyd's murder in 2020, this was really the catalyst, because I reread The Souls of Black Folk by W.E.B. Du Bois, and chapter 14 is called Of the Sorrow Songs, and he uses the term the sorrow songs to refer to the body of black folk song that the enslaved Africans in America and their descendants have. So this body of song is really important. It's really important for identity. It's really important for a sense of self and a sense of group belonging, a sense of history, and also these songs are important in terms of being able to give voice to incredible experiences of the most horrific brutality and suffering that are really hard to put into words. You can communicate things in song form that I think are really hard to say in language, spoken or written. There's an emotional element to song that makes it, I think, easier to express those things. So I was thinking, this made me think, well, we have this historic black presence in Britain. Where's the body of folk song? That's what we don't have. And people, in general, have a sense of awareness of black folk music as something American, but not as something British. Isn't that interesting?
And do you think that the songs were here but were just not recorded? That the people recording were coming from a different perspective, from the white perspective, and therefore they ignored the songs that were being sung by black British people?
Yeah, I think there's absolutely no way that there were never any songs sung by black British people. There's no way that could have been possible. I think that if the historic black Britons have been rendered out of official history, then it makes sense that also their songs would have been rendered out of official song history.
So you set about remedying this in a way, and I think you researched stories of black Britons in order to tell them in folk song. So where did you find the stories?
That's a very, very interesting question, because the thing about research, as I was saying earlier, is when you find out a little bit about something, then all of a sudden all of these other doors and windows open up and more information comes to you from a variety of sources. So We were in the lockdown when I began research on this, and a lot of libraries and archives put their materials online, so that was a real gift to me. And there were lots of helpful people as well. Once people found out I was researching this, I would tweet about it or put stuff on the socials, and people would contact me with information. A lot of historians who are just interested in black history, they're not necessarily professional historians or writers or lecturers or anything, but they've got a lot of information and they wanted to share, so I got a lot of stuff that way. It's very interesting, a huge variety, a huge and very exciting variety of sources.
And can you give me some examples of the kind of stories that you uncovered? I know we're going to hear a couple of them in song in a moment, but some of the others that came to you.
Well, there were so many, and the thing that really amazed me at the start of my research was that I felt quite overwhelmed. I thought there is so very much black history in these islands. I'm not going to get enough time to read it all, because I started off thinking, am I going to find enough material for stories? And very quickly realised that I would be overwhelmed. There are stories of enslaved people who ran away and were recaptured, stories of enslaved people who ran away successfully. There are hue and cries. You know what the hue and cry is? I used to think that hue and cry meant like a hullabaloo or something, making a massive noise, but actually a hue and cry is the term given to an advert taken out in the press where you describe your escaped slave and offer a reward for their return. That's a hue and cry. So that was an interesting thing that I found out as well, yeah. So
all sorts of details and stories and experiences were coming to you.
Yeah.
How did you manage to distill all that information into the songs?
A very good question and a very difficult one to answer, because there were so very many stories, and these are all real people, and I wanted to honour them. I wanted to honour all of these black ancestors. And not all of them made it to the album. For example, there was a story of a black girl in a green dress who was enslaved and escaped in Scotland. And that detail of the green dress really stayed with me, and I wanted to write something about her and her green dress. Didn't quite write it in time. And also Billy Waters. There was a recent Guardian article about Billy Waters. In the 1820s, he was a very famous busker in London. He was a celebrity pretty much. African-American originally, he was enslaved in America, ran away to fight for the British, lost a leg on board ship, and was a very famous sight in London because he had a wooden prosthetic leg which he used as part of his dance routine, like he'd sort of pirouette and spin on it, and he also had an amazing hat that he handmade in the shape of a ship in full sail.
Wow.
Yes, absolutely incredible. And he was a singer and a fiddle player. And busking at the time was considered a form of begging and was against the law. So every time he performed, he risked being arrested. He was very devoted to his wife and family, but extremely poor. And he and his family entered a workhouse and died 10 days later. So I think they were probably just very browbeaten by poverty, very malnourished. But he was a black celebrity on the streets of London in the 1820s. And the song that I started for him just wasn't ready in time. So there are many that didn't make it. How did I choose the stories? Really, it was the ones that struck me emotionally and that I felt I would be able to sing and play and convey with some kind of emotional truth. Where I felt like as a storyteller I could connect with the subject matter and with the people that I was singing about. So that's what really helped me make the decision. And there were different ways that I felt I could connect with the different people, but that sense of connection was really the thing that helped me to choose.
It sounds to me like there might need to be another album.
You're not the first person to suggest that. Maybe.
Well, if there's all this material that was too late or didn't quite make it, and you've got all these stories that might become songs, then maybe the process needs to continue.
Well, maybe it does, you never know.
Shall we walk round this puddle?
But, if you want the authentic Cornwall, you've got it.
Here we are at Porthtowan Beach, and there are certainly some white-capped waves.
It's
aren't
beautiful,
there?
Isn't it? Watch your feet, it's very rocky on this bit.
Yeah, we're going over the pebbles.
White-capped waves. Look at the colour of that water. It's a real sort of aquamarine today.
It's gorgeous, and there's a little breeze blowing, but the sun is out. And I'm guessing these flags are here to tell us not to go swimming. So I wasn't thinking of it, were you?
Well, I have been swimming on much colder days than this.
Do Do you swim in the sea often?
Yeah, I really love swimming in the sea. It's it's one of those things I do for my well-being.
Yeah.
And I just love. I feel like I disappear when I go to swim in the sea, and I mean that in a positive way. I mean I feel like I'm just effortlessly part of nature when I'm in the water. Whatever troubles you had before you got into the sea, it washes them away when you come out. That's not to say they don't come back later on, but for a time, it feels like the sea just cleanses you of all the worries that you had before you went in.
I'm just drawn to go right down to the edge of the water. I don't know why, but I think we should go and dip our toes in the water. It's such a glorious colour, isn't it? Deep green out there, and then blue coming in, and the white intersected by the white of those waves, breakers. And there's a cliff on either end of the beach, so we're sort of in an inlet, aren't we, between the two cliffs?
And there's some surfers.
Of course, this is Cornwall.
They came out just for you.
Now, I've got in my hand an auto harp, which belongs to you, it's not mine.
Yeah, I'll be wanting that back.
And I assume you brought it because this is a place that inspired you to write a song, is that right?
Yes, I actually did compose the song here. I came here because I really just needed the space and the light and the sky and the water to help clear my mind. But it wasn't the place as such that inspired the song. It was one of the stories that I found when I was researching for the Sorrow songs that actually inspired the song. Unknown African Boy, brackets, died 1830, and that's important because this happened in 1830 off St Martin's, Isles of Scilly, which was one of the routes that a lot of ships used in the transatlantic slave trade. On this particular occasion, the captain of the ship was really exhausted, made a misjudgment, and the ship was wrecked. And newspapers of the time in 1830 reported all of the things that had been washed up onto the shore as a result of this wreck. And it was really interesting because they were all very luxurious, expensive things. So there were 7 boxes, I think, of gold dust. There were boxes of silver dollars. There was ivory, elephant tusks, and the body of an unknown African boy, estimated age around 8. And it just broke my heart. When I got to that detail, it absolutely broke my heart. So it's not known whether he also was destined to be sold somewhere, or whether he had already been bought and sold and was enslaved to or serving the captain or the crew on board ship or somebody on board ship.
But the fact that he was listed as a possession alongside those other expensive possessions is the most chilling thought, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, this story just... When you're researching something like this, as you can imagine, your emotions take a very, very serious battering all the time. That, like, some of the things that you read about are, you have to take time out because they affect you so profoundly and make you so desperate about the state of the world. And then also you think to yourself, well, I didn't actually have to go through this. I'm upset by this, but actually real people experienced this and went through it. I've got the option to close this book and walk away if I want to. They didn't have that option. So very, very emotionally grueling, really, draining. But this story, I really couldn't get this story out of my mind, and I wanted to honour that little boy and also all of the children and babies and toddlers and teenagers who were separated from their parents, who were abducted and trafficked into slavery. I wanted to honour them. So this song is like a lullaby for all of those trafficked and enslaved children, and it's also intended as a hug for all those bereft mothers. The song starts and ends. I didn't know how I was going to story this into song form because it just affected me so much, and that's why I came to this beach, because I knew that eventually I would find a way in and that the sea would help me. And I walked up and down this beach for what seemed like most of a day. I don't know how long it was. It probably wasn't that long really, but it seemed like it. And I First of all, I got the idea that I wanted to write the song from the perspective of his mother, because the idea of a universal human experience, that's quite, some people agree with that as an idea, some people disagree with it, but I think everyone can relate to loss, especially if it's loss of someone who's really precious to you, and where you have no control over that loss. That person was taken from you. I think that's something that everyone can relate to on some level. So that was the first way in that I got, okay, this is a mother's lament, a grieving mother's lament. And on the recording, when Eliza Carthy comes in, and she produced the album and did a beautiful job, she wrote all the string arrangements, and when her voice comes in, she's representing the collective grief of all the bereft mothers in that village when they begin to realise what's happened, and that there's a reason why they can't find their children either. And the next thing that came to me on the beach was the opening line, "Oh, my brown arms, they are sad and empty." So the song begins and ends with the mother's arms. First of all, it's the human mother who has been robbed of her son in the most brutal of ways, and then at the end of the song, the little boy is buried in the earth, and the earth is his mother, and she holds him safe in her soft brown arms. So I wanted those arms at the beginning and end of the song to be like a hug for the listener, because it's hard to listen to this kind of story. So I wanted to give some sort of so it was meant to be like a mother's hug.
Would you sing it for us?
Of course, yes. Perhaps we need to find somewhere a bit less windy for that.
Yes, let's do that, yeah.
Brown arms, they are sad and empty. Oh, where is my little son? He's stolen away by English slaves. The cudgel rolled and pointed gun. My riven heart, it is wide with sorrow. Oh, where is my darling boy? Thrust into a sack with babes and slavers in the king's employ. Luli, my dear babe, where'er you be, in the arms of the ocean we cradle for thee. Ripped oh so cruel from his loving mother, my darling babe, to be bought and sold. His skin ground raw by iron sheets, he gulps foul hell, the ship's dank hold. Oh, I'll send my spirit out into the darkness, into stars and the wind and the sea I'll hold. My spirit will rise into earth and wood. What a mother's love he might then know. Luli, my dear babe, where'er you be, the arms of the ocean be cradle for thee. If the sea be your bed and the waves be your pillow, may the sun in the sky keep you from more harm. The earth is your mother now, dear baby. She will hold you safe in her soft brown arms. Luli, my dear babe, where'er you be, the arms of the ocean being cradle for thee. Oh, earth, cradle my son for me. Luli, lula, luli, lula. Oh, earth, cradle my son for me. Luli, lula, luli, lula. Earth, cradle my son for me. Luli, lula, luli, lula. Earth, cradle my son for me.
So we're at Wendron Church now, and the church is on one side of the road, and then there's a graveyard on the other side of the road. And we're going to go into the graveyard now, aren't we, Angeline?
That's right, yeah.
So why have you brought us here, Angeline?
Well, this is Wendron Cemetery, and soon we will come to quite an extraordinary grave, because it contains a master and slave buried together. So, a Cornish miner named Thomas Johns, who died in 1861, he was buried here first. He went to Brazil to start a new life, to try his luck over there. And whilst he was there, he purchased a 7-year-old enslaved boy who was originally from Mozambique. And that boy was Evaristo Muchavela. From what little we know of the story, and there are few details, it seems that Thomas Johns was actually quite a kind master to Evaristo Muchavela. It seems that he treated him pretty well. I mean, the fact that he owned him is one thing, but they lived together in Brazil until Evaristo was a young man and Thomas was an older man, and Thomas became ill and he wanted to go back home to Cornwall because he knew he was dying and he wanted to die at home. So the story goes that he gave Evaristo a choice, and he said, you can either stay on in Brazil on your own and I'll give you your freedom, or you can come back to Cornwall with me and you'll be my serving man, because by this point it was no longer legal to own an enslaved person on British soil. So Evaristo chose to stay with his master, who was soon to become his former master, and they're buried together here. And what's also very interesting is that before he died, Thomas Johns made sure that Evaristo had somewhere to stay and could retrain as a cabinet maker. And he worked on 4 Street, which is the main street in Redruth. He worked for a cabinet maker called William Wales. So I'm in the process of trying to find out which building it was. I haven't managed to find that yet. But yeah, in the 1860s in Redruth, on Redruth High Street, there was a black guy working as a cabinet maker.
That's an amazing revelation, isn't it, when you think of the fact that people say, oh, there were no black people in this country until after 1948.
Exactly that, and I do always say that when I'm telling the story. I say, so the next time anybody tries to tell you that there weren't any black people around before 1948.
Let's look at the grave here, because it has the details of their their lives. Thomas Johns is at the top there, and Evaristo is below. It says born in Mozambique, South Africa, died at Redruth in 1868. Evaristo was quite young when he died.
Yes, he died at age 38, and Thomas Johns was age 61. But then you do have to remember that when Thomas Johns purchased Evaristo, he was a 7-year-old boy, so there was a big age difference between them.
These gravestones are often a record of history, aren't they? And that's just a fascinating history. And it's a fascinating thing that they are buried in the same grave. Do you think that's a surprising thing?
Well, it feels surprising to us nowadays, doesn't it? Maybe it was not so surprising back then, but it feels as though they should have had a real bond. To be buried in the same grave, you would expect that they would have had a real bond. Both men are not recorded to have had any significant partnerships or children, so maybe they became like family to one another. Nobody knows.
And when you heard that story, were you immediately seized with the idea, oh, this must become a song?
Yes, I think something in me knew that this was definitely going to become a song, but what really made me decide that it had to be a song is when I came here and read that inscription. Here lie the master and the slave, side by side within one grave. Distinction is lost, and caste is o'er. The slave is now a slave no more. And I thought, that I need to sing that.
Would you sing the song for us here by the grave?
Be happy to.
Here lie the master and the slave, side by side within one grave. Distinction is lost and caste is o'er. The slave is slave no more. Slave no more. Slave no more. The slave is now a slave no more. Stolen was I from Mozambique, a lad so small I scarce could speak, chained in the hold, so sick and weak, my spirit it did kill. Such sights did I see, no tongue can tell, a child engulfed by the fires of hell. And since I survived, they thought it well to sell me in Brazil. Slave no more. Slave no more. The slave is now a slave no more. Fresh from my torment on the sea, a Cornish miner purchased me. He fed and clothed me speedily. He treated me right well. Oh, hard did I toil for many a year, but my kind master I did not fear. A kinship and loyalty sincere within my breast did dwell. Slave no more. Slave no more. The slave is now a slave no more. Both strangers on this foreign shore, with tribulation great in store. Alas, it was not long before my master's health did fail. 'Twas Then the choice he gave to me, stay as serving man or leave and be free. I chose the first, and so did we, for Cornwall soon set sail. Slave no more, slave no more. The slave is now a slave no more. In Wendron town, in Cornwall fair, we came to live. I served him there. I nursed him with a brother's care. With love did him surround. His death came soon, but even then he left me means to work again. We're buried now, two equal men, together in the ground. Slave no more, slave no more. The slave is now a slave no more.
Quite extraordinary to hear that sung near the grave where those two men are buried. I wonder what the reaction has been when you've taken these songs on the road and played them to audiences, because it must be sometimes quite a challenging evening for audiences to hear these stories.
Yes, I think that's true. The stories are all very hard to hear in different ways, and also there are little moments of sunshine in them. I wanted to end the album with this one because of the message that the slave is now a slave no more, and that the two men in death, they are equal. They're absolutely equal men. But yes, audience reactions, I've been really overwhelmed actually. Audiences have been very receptive. Lots of people have wanted to come and talk to me afterwards, maybe find out a bit more. People have wanted to know about the research process and, maybe where they can find out more about the hidden black history in Britain. So it's been really, really wonderful to play these songs live to people and also to chat to them afterwards about it.
And do you think the songs might, or do you hope the songs might take on a life of their own, and that they might go out into the world and be sung by other people in the way that traditional songs are?
I really hope so. That would be amazing. I would absolutely love that. That's probably my biggest dream for this album, is that the songs will become part of a living singing tradition, and that there will finally be representation of Britain's hidden historic black populations in the folk songs.
Angeline, it's been absolutely amazing to walk with you, to hear these stories, and to, above all, hear you sing in these extraordinary places. Thank you so much for joining us on Folk on Foot.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been wonderful.
We really hope you enjoyed this episode as much as we enjoyed making it, and if you'd like us to go on making more of these podcasts, please support us by making a contribution through Patreon or by buying us a coffee. You can do both things at folkonfoot.com/support us, and we really appreciate any donation, no matter how small. We love making Folk on Foot, and with your help we'd like to go on making it forever.